6 o'clock, and it's a very good evening to you, and welcome to it, our broadcast. It's brought to you courtesy of Government Communication and Information System, the GCIS, together with the National Treasury, the National Department of Treasury. The last week I said the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer, and we abbreviated, it's called the OCPO. So there we go, and we're going to be having yet another broadcast like we did last week, and we're going to be focusing on a different issue this evening. And just to let you know that if you want to catch this broadcast in a different language, you're more than welcome to do that. On Monday we do it in the Sesotho languages. On Tuesday is the Nguni languages, and of course today Afrikaans and English. Preferably English dominant, maybe 80-90% of it this evening. So welcome to it. Let me give you a phone number that you can use. It's a toll-free number if you're going to be using a landline or your telecom line. It's very easy. It's 0800 142 446. That's 0800 142 446. I just saw one of my producer's eyes lift up a little bit, thinking that I've missed the number. I thought I was going to miss the number myself, I can tell you now. But so that's as easy as that, 0800 142 446. Like we did last week, we've got our guests coming back again to share a different story with us this evening. And of course, I've got Rakgadi Motseto. She's the Chief Director, Stakeholders and Client Support from the department, as well as Meros Mahlaula, beg your pardon. She's the Director of Supply Chain Management, Governance, Monitoring and Compliance. And they're going to be talking to us this evening. Ladies, thank you so much for coming through, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and good evening to the listeners.
Thank you. Good evening to our listeners.
Today we're going to be talking about something that's very, very interesting. We're going to be talking about the e-tender site. I'm going to be learning quite a lot. In fact, I was chatting to Rakgadi earlier on, and he's saying to me, Karabo, the information that we're putting on the website is actually, look, I mean, we go to it, but we know it ourselves as the employees in the department, but it's merely for people that really want to work with government. So we'd like to encourage people to really go to that site. But now the problem could be when they get there, they don't know what to do. And that's what we're going to be touching on this evening. Hey, Rakgadi?
Yeah, that's correct. Also will talk about the information that is on the website, how to use it, and later on I'll add on just to elaborate the planning that goes into what we see as a procurement plan, as well as a bit that is advertised publicly.
Right, let's not waste any further time. Let's get straight into it. Meros, maybe tell us a little bit about what is this thing that we're talking about, the e-tender site?
Thank you. When we talk about the e-tender site, it starts with the procurement plans. Every year, departments are required to submit the procurement plans for the whole year. In the procurement plan, that's where they are indicating that for the whole year, at this quarter, we're going to publish these tenders. They are committing themselves, actually. So they submit the tender, the procurement plan to Treasury departments. National department will submit to National Treasury. Provincial departments will submit to provincial treasuries. So the Treasury will take that information at the beginning of the quarter. They'll publish the tenders that are to be advertised, that departments committed to advertise in the e-tender portal. So that's where our suppliers need to get information. They need to visit the website. It's www.etenders.gov.za to get that information. In the e-tenders, they'll see all the tenders that would be advertised for all the departments in that quarter. So in the e-tender portal, what they will see for the quarter, I indicated that they will see all the tenders that will be advertised for the quarter. The information that is contained there is the description of the tender, the envisaged date of advertisement. They will see that, the envisaged date of award, so that they can prepare themselves. So when the time comes, say, for example, if the department indicated that they are going to publish a tender in May, they need to go back to the e-tender portal and check if that tender was indeed advertised. Or they can even go to the department website to check. If the tender is not there, they need to call the department. Because when we publish, when National Treasury or Provincial Treasuries publish the information that they received from the departments, they don't go back to them to verify, for them to confirm if indeed they are still going to advertise the tender. We just take the information that is submitted to us and publish it in the e-tender portal.
Right.
So it's a portal where they can get information on the tenders. At the beginning of the quarter, they get the information for the whole quarter.
So how do you navigate to get there? For somebody that's using say a web URL to start with. So you go www what?
.etenders.gov.za.
And then the first page opens, and what do you see when you land there?
On the first page, you see what we call tender/bid opportunities. That is where you are going to find the procurement plans. We have some under national departments, some entities, public entities, they are publishing as well.
Also, the information that I can see in the e-tender portal is the awarded tenders, because when the tender is awarded, it needs to be published as well.
All right. 0800 142 446. We said I'm going to tender the tender site that we're talking about, which our guests are explaining to us this evening. They would like you to go and explore it. And I'm going to do that myself after this. I'll be honest with you, I've never been there. And I would like to, and just the way you're explaining it, it looks like it's very easy for one to actually go there and navigate through that. So I'm going to be doing that myself, and hopefully you're going to be joining me as a listener. So 0800 142 446, lines are open if you want to interact with Merakadi Mutseto, the Chief Director, Stakeholders and Client Support, as well as Rose Mahlaule, the Director, Supply Chain Management, Governance, Monitoring and Compliance, coming from the Department of Treasury. 13 after 6, welcome to it. If you've just joined us, my name is Karabalans, glad to be in your company. So there we go, we're talking about the e-tender site. It's very, very interesting that things have gone web-based, but that helps a lot, hey, Rakhadi?
It does, because what we want to achieve with the e-tenders is for our suppliers to access the bidding documents for free. So some of the suppliers, they think if you open the bid documents, then you're going to be charged for it. What we want them to take from this discussion is that when you see a tender, you can open the documents and read them. If you're interested in the tender itself, you can print and check if there's a briefing session that is compulsory, so that when you go for the briefing session, you have the documents, then you can get there and ask for pointed questions on that particular tender. The documents are free if you download them on the system directly. So it is important for organs of state, when they advertise, to load the documents as well. Some of the mistakes that we have picked up that suppliers are challenged with is that you find that a tender is advertised today, and the briefing session that is compulsory, the date has lapsed already. So it is important that they call the organ of state to say, look, the briefing session has come and gone, you just advertised today. So that would mean the organ of state that advertised need to extend the period so that they cater for that briefing session. So it is important that they take responsibility of talking to these organs of state so that we do this thing properly. Don't complain on the sidelines. On the bid documents, there'll be contact details. Use those numbers. Make them aware that the briefing session date has come and gone. What do we do? They know that they need to extend the period to cater for that.
Right, 0800 142 446. That's 0800 142 446. Something that's at the top of my mind right now that I would like to ask is the issue of the document format that you get there. Is it a read-only document, or is it one that one can edit stuff out of it? I doubt it is, though. Is it a PDF file? What is it?
It is a PDF file, yes.
So
you can't amend it because you'll change the date and the scope.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you make it to suit your needs.
Yes.
16 after 6 o'clock, 0800 142 446. Linda Mazibu, I'm going to ask you to be very quick with those lines, double speed than last time. Really, I would like to ask you that. Linda Mazibu doing an absolutely amazing job, by the way. He's our second producer on the other side, and he's the one that's mending telephones, and he's waiting for you to call in on that toll-free number if you're going to be calling from a landline. 0800 142 446. Just trying to impress the other producer. His name is Stone, Mosoto Stone on sound. Thank you so much, guys. Doing an absolutely amazing job. All right, let's talk about the issue that you've mentioned previously that's got to do with dates. Now, how often does information get changed on the site itself? Because when you were explaining to me earlier on, Meros, it felt like most of the stuff are dated there. So how often do we go in there and make changes and update stuff? How often does it happen?
You mean the departments changing information on their procurement plans?
Is it at a go as something happens, or there's just specific times where this needs to happen?
No, departments are allowed to amend their procurement plans anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and submit, as long as they submit the amended procurement plan. Unfortunate part is when it has been submitted and when already the tenders have been with loaded information that these are the tenders that are going to be advertised for in the first quarter or the second quarter. But still, they are allowed to amend and send the amended procurement plan to us. I need to indicate to the suppliers also that the e-tender portal, unlike in the past, where they have to drive to maybe to buy the tender documents and it save them time and cost of traveling to get the tender documents and to buy the tender documents. So some departments still advertise their tenders in newspapers and in the government tender bulletin, but it's a requirement for them to advertise in the e-tender portal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So if you see something in the newspaper, a tender that is advertised, and you check in the e-tender portal and it's not there, you need to question that.
All right, 100%. Let's hear what our listeners have got to say with regards to how far we've been now with the conversation. And maybe let's start in Kempton Park in Gauteng. And we're chatting to Bonnie. Good evening to you, Bonnie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for calling in.
Okay. Actually, I would like just to find out, I have perused the itinerary before because I'm on the CSD, so I've went through the itinerary website through the Central Supply Database. I just want to find out in terms of the online submission, because it's written there that you can do online submission, on how that works.
Or maybe should we go back to the questions? Maybe let's start with, of course, Bonnie calling in from Kempton Park. Now, the online submissions, maybe before we even answer Bonnie's question, what is she talking about to those who don't know?
Okay, what Bonnie is referring to is the online submissions that we were working on for the transversal contracts. That is the one method of buying through procurement, something that we'll deal with in the coming week. So
but now that you've mentioned it, the transversal contracts, maybe let me ask you, we will deal in detail with them next week, but just because you've mentioned what is it, and then we can just go on. You don't have to get into detail about it.
A transversal contract simply means, some people think they call it centralized buying. That's where we look at the commodities that government is buying. If we are buying, say, cars, am I missing something? Okay, that's fine. All right. Transversal contract simply means we look at what the commodities that most organs of state are buying. For instance, you look at the cars. We call all the departments that are buying more cars. We buy collectively. They sit in the process. They decide what kind of cars they want to buy, and then we go negotiate. We issue a tender. And all those dealers who want to bid, we were hoping that they will bid electronically, but the problem is we underestimated the size of the commodities.
Right.
You might find that in one tender, say for the health one, you find something like 300 commodities. So it was a bit massive for us to handle on the system, but we are working on it. So with the transversal contract, we buy collectively as government the common goods and services that we need. We negotiate the discounts. Right. So when government buys, they buy at a discounted price. That's what transversal contract is.
Wonderful. 0800 142 446. 0800 142 446. The procurement plans, that's what we're talking about this evening. Well, let's go back then to Bonnie's question.
Okay, it has to do with the online thing, because we were starting to work on it for the transversal contract, which are the big ones. Mm-hmm. You find that I think we have close to 78, transversal contracts running. You have the health commodities, you have the cars, you have the tires, you have school books, the ones in Limpopo, you have school furniture for Eastern Cape. So it's a lot of them. We were hoping that by now they'll be online, but it's something that we're working on right now.
Right. One of the things that's going to be happening pretty soon, if we can go into it, unless if there's something that you'd like to highlight, everybody's looking forward. Should we go into that yet?
Let me just indicate something first on the
I gotta go for work with me. Yeah, hold my hand.
I know.
Hold my hand. Yeah, yeah.
On the e-tender side, there's information because in the past two programs we had received calls where suppliers are asking. We just see people doing work in our municipality. We don't know how they were appointed.
Right.
If suppliers go into e-tenders, under tender opportunities, there's a drop-down menu where you find advertised tenders, awarded tenders. On the awarded tenders, you will know once the tender has been awarded, they will publish the name of the company that has been awarded the tender and the points thereof. So you know who won the tender.
Okay.
The information is made publicly.
You mentioning points, and I remember I was in a conversation where somebody was asking me how the points system work. We might not just go into detail with it, but since you've mentioned it, just to tickle the ears, and maybe Tlhabana Leona will have it sometime in the future. The point system, how does it work?
It is based on the evaluation criteria, because in every tender you need to indicate how are you going to evaluate the capability of the bidders, whether they have capacity or not, they have the expertise, and in that criteria they indicate, for instance, if you say you want somebody who's a project manager, the criteria probably would be from 0 to 2 years you get 1 point. For maybe 3 to 5 you get 3. So that's the criteria. When they're done, they tally up for all the committee members and they come up with a total score. So when they publish the entire score that includes even the pricing.
So would I be correct to say the more points you get, the closer you are to getting the tender?
Sort of, yes.
Okay,
Right.
Maybe can I add something to
sure.
what Rakati? Okay, when the evaluation is done, if the tender is to be evaluated on functionality, there's a threshold that is put there to check capacity and capability, to check if the service provider can do the work. So if you qualify, if you meet the minimum requirements, then you proceed to the next stage. That is the stage of price and BEE points. So when the tender is advertised, you'll notice that it is advertised at 80-20 or 90-10. That 80-20 and the 90-10 means 80 is the points for price and 20 is the BEE points. So those points are added. If you are the lowest supplier, your quotation is the lowest, you'll get the maximum points. And the other service providers, when the points are calculated, they are calculated against your price, the lowest price. So those points will be added to the BEE points, that is 21 up to 20. If you are a level 1, you'll get a maximum of 20 points. So the tenders are awarded to the highest scoring bidder, meaning the points for price and the points for BEE added together.
So you're saying different stages, right? They're in different levels or stages. Let me not say level. I heard you say that if you have this, then you move over to the next level, which is the BEE one.
Yeah.
So in other words, there's
there are stages of evaluation in tenders.
There we go.
Some tenders, they will indicate that they will evaluate administrative compliance.
Right.
They are not scoring points.
Okay.
If you qualify, then you move to functionality. If that tender has functionality evaluation criteria, they move to evaluation, to functionality evaluation. Functionality evaluation, they are doing that to check your capacity and capability. If you qualify, then they move to the last stage. That is the award stage, where they calculate the points. They add the points for price and BEE.
Right.
Yes.
MBA.
Yeah. Tsepo, you're calling from Klerksdorp in Northwest. Argo wena or pucho ya ga o reng Tsepo? Good evening, sir. Somebody just said to me, hey, this one is in English. Okay, no worries. Dumela Tata Tshepo. Good evening to you, sir.
Evening to you, Dr. Karaba.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Karaba, I've got two questions. Last week, I was on Karaba, but actually my question is follow up to that question I asked last week.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure this time Kikra right. It's happened. I apologize for that, but we do have time, and I'm glad you called in at this time.
Is it possible or can you the criteria? Maybe if there is a tender, because if you are going to this person, only tender at 3 million, only tender, because if you put in a somewhere, possibly a tender, I was a honor of the but one miracle because of politics.
Yeah, Tep, as far as I can remember, we did answer that question, but it's not a problem. We can maybe repeat that. Yeah, is that the only one you have?
No, I've got another question.
Yeah, go for it.
Yes, another question. Transport company, but it's again a transport.
Right. Okay. Tshepo, just listen very carefully to the radio because, like I say, I think you really answer to your first question, if I'm not mistaken, even the second one. But that's not a problem. We can deal with it again. So thank you so much. Kid Tshepo from Klerksdorp. You can also ask your question or you can comment for that matter. 0800 142 446.
I think I recall saying to Tshepo last week that it differs from tender to tender, especially if the tender requires you to hire people to really deliver on the service. For instance, if you are going to run a cleaning company, you're going to employ people. So you need to give us assurance that you have the cash flow to pay them. Just in case something goes odd with the systems and we can't pay you for that month, at least you should show us that you are sustainable to keep the people working and being paid, because you don't want the cleaners to come to us and say we were not paid. That is why we need that cash flow. But in other tenders, we don't require that.
Yeah.
Especially where you have to move one thing from here to there, or we're talking about the skill. We don't need a cash flow for that one.
Right.
Yeah.
So it differs, Tshepo. It differs from one tender to the other, right? Okay. Now, he's talking about partnership. I'm not sure if I'm using the right word for this that we're going to deal with right now. But he's saying, say a tender's got to do with transportation of some sort, but he does not have the resources, say, for instance, the buses that are needed. But he knows somebody who has. And how do you deal with that? Can he go to that somebody and say, look, naked looking at tender, when I said Buster, how does it work? Is it allowed? Is it not allowed? How does it work?
We need to draw a line between fronting and partnership.
All right. Let's go.
If they bid together as partners, it's understandable. But you cannot bid as Rahadi and then later on I bring somebody who doesn't qualify only to find they only have the capital. They do the work. You are a facilitator of some sort. So that's what we call fronting. You need to be a shareholder. You need to be a partner to say, I have the skill. I have the intellectual knowledge to run the business. So we've come together. We are partners. We be together. But you cannot come and say, I have the idea. And then you bid. We award you, you don't have the capacity. Then you go and get somebody to say, do the work.
The advice that we can give to that type of is that they form a joint venture. They bid as a joint venture.
So before they apply for the tender, certain things needs to be done first, which is they need to come together.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So how can they prove whether they've come together? I mean, they can. I can say no. We've come together, no problem. Nelly Stone will sort you guys out. Don't worry about it. And only to find out no. Once you've awarded the tender, ke tlo ya gape and do this which you don't want, which is fronting. Ke tlo ya and say, Stone, ke krele ntwe so. Let's go for it.
They need to submit a joint venture agreement.
Yes.
When they tender, they need to submit that as evidence that they agreed indeed.
So the absence of a joint venture agreement equals fronting. I got one another mates.
The other thing is that the
Mathematicians.
suppliers that they need to understand is that if you do fronting, you're really now violating the rules that DTI is the custodian of. And if you are caught doing that, you might be restricted from doing business with government. So
Ever.
they need to be very careful when they do that. When you're in partnership, there needs to be an agreement. If it's joint venture, it needs to be supported by an agreement. That is the joy of supply chain. There needs to be paperwork.
Okay. How different is it to subcontracting?
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big term.
Mm-hmm.
It's one that comes from our producers, not me. I don't know such big words. Subcontracting, what's the
Are you going
difference?
to take it?
Okay, joint venture, I indicated that when you submit your tender, you submit it as a joint venture together. It's not you as Rose and Rakadi submitting as individuals. We agreed, we submit as a joint venture. Subcontracting, I'm awarded a tender as Rose, but I'm going to appoint a service provider to do a portion of the work that I'm appointed to do, have been awarded to me. Portion of the work.
Okay, so that's the key word. So not the entire work that's been put forward.
Yes.
No.
They do a portion of it, and then you do the other portion. Is that what you mean?
It has to be like that, because you also need to disclose when you submit your tender. You need to indicate that I'm going to subcontract 20% or 30%, because also that counts in your points scoring, the BEE point scoring. When when they score you on the BE, they look at how many percentage are you going to subcontract and the company that they are going to subcontract. You also need to submit the documents of the subcontractor that you're going to subcontract the portion of the work to.
Wow. All right.
The other thing that suppliers need to know is that with the revised preferential procurement regulations, the scope of subcontracting has been increased to be 30% from any tender that is 30 million and above.
Mm-hmm.
So as the OCPO working on the mechanics of getting the contracts so that our subcontractees, if there's a word like that, are protected in this arrangement.
Right. 0800 142 446. That's 0800 142 446. Ari today in tender processes that are underway. To help us understand exactly what these things mean, so that you can have a good working relationship with government. That's exactly what we're promoting here. And if you don't know, you're going to do the wrong things, and then you tarnish government's name. Hey, government, I treat us and all of that stuff, bribe and stuff, only to find that you don't have all the information that's needed for you to be working or to have a good working relationship with government. So let's learn about these things. If you've got any questions with regards to what we're talking about this evening, you're more than welcome to give us a call. It's a toll-free number, by the way. If you're going to be calling from a telecom line or a landline, it's 0800 142 446, 0800 142 446. Let's take Crystal. Crystal is calling from Johannesburg. I've got a friend of mine who's living in the state like Johannesburg. So there we go. Crystal.
Hello.
Hi, Crystal. Thanks for calling. What's your question?
All right. Good evening, everybody in the studio. Thank you very much.
Hi,
for this
Crystal.
opportunity. Hi. My question is that actually I'm coming from Gauteng, so it's on the financial statement. My company is still fairly new by the capability, because we JB on this particular tender that we are responding to. But now we found ourselves stuck because they said they want 3-year back statements, of which we do not have.
How
does it work?
How old is your company, if I may ask?
It's about 2 years. The other lady is about a year and a half.
Okay, just hold the line for me, Crystal. We just want to. Do you understand that question there?
No, I do understand, but I just need to know what the tender is all about.
Right. Do you want to tell us, Crystal? Are you at liberty to tell us what the tender is all about?
Okay, it's offering professional services within the human resources.
So human resources
Is it
services,
recruitment?
basically.
Is it advisory?
Are you providing equipment or are you providing
No.
advice or what is it that you're doing?
Okay, we will be actually, it's not yet awarded, so we're in that stage where we're responding to it, but we found ourselves stuck and like a bit discouraged to say that we might not get it. Literally what they're looking for is to do job profiling, analysis and all that, so that's what it is. It's within the human resource services.
Would we be correct if we say advice, maybe?
Right?
The type of services that you offer, could they be labeled advice? Because definitely it's not equipment.
Yeah, it's not equipment at all.
Yeah. So,
No, I do understand
yeah.
what you said. It's
all right.
fine, yeah.
All right, Crystal, thank you so much. I think we've got it now. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Right, thank you. Yes.
No, it's fine. Christelle will respond to your question. You can listen on the radio. It's fine.
All right, thank you. I'll listen on the radio.
Thank you, ma'am.
you. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. It's a bit strange that if you're offering professional services, because it's the skill that you possess as a professional. Why does it have to have your financial statements? Because you are doing it's like me being employed. I come to work, I give my skill, I get paid. Why do they have to know if I have financial statements, unless the work is risky and there's a potential that somebody might be bribed or something like that? But what we will do tomorrow, we will call Crystal just to get some more information and see how we can help her. Because in certain instances, you might find that certain departments, they would put a criteria that really already discriminates or eliminates people who even can do the work.
Right. Do we have what we call legitimate discrimination when it comes to this?
Yes, there is.
Oh, really? Tell us about it.
No, I'm trying to find. I'm trying to come up with a good example. For instance, if there are certain tenders that are complex, right, and you don't want to spend a lot of time sifting out what you need, so you have to
set standards.
Yes, set standards that this is the standard. If a person can reach the standard, that person will be able to deliver that service.
Right.
Because even in applying for works, you have those serial appliers, those kind of things.
Right.
So there are certain tenders that are very complex where the criteria is high. But we work on those through the revised regulations. We will get people on board through subcontracting as well.
Right.
Just so we expose them to those environments, and then they can stand on their own later on.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And we are aware that some institutions just put these funny conditions and requirements just to eliminate other service providers. And I've got an example of when they were still buying tenders from institutions, there was an institution that was selling tender document for 30,000 non-refundable. You can see that clearly they don't want because the purpose of selling documents was for you to recover the cost incurred for printing and maybe binding. But 30,000 non-refundable,
small
those
businesses can afford it.
Yes,
of course.
Yeah.
So there we go. At least now you know there is something called legitimate. What you call it?
I disagree with that one.
I don't know.
I'm not going to.
So in other words, the horse in the sun down to No, let's not go there. Let's go to Tepo in Klerksdorp. Not the same Tepo though. This is a different Tepo in Klerksdorp. Klerksdorp, we got another Tepile Magna. Tepo.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Good evening to you.
Good evening. How are you, man?
I'm very well, thank you. I felt like I'm in a most stadium when I raise your right hand, your voice. What's your question, sir?
My question is, I just want to find out about something. What is the government doing about this tender scheme, whereby the suppliers are getting the fake RFQ orders and the RFP orders, right? The reason why I'm asking that is because, as you know, that the small and medium enterprise, they're actually dealing with unemployment as far as employment equity is concerned. Now, my concern is that most of the people around the place that they're getting fake orders from both government employees. Is there any system in place that can assist us as suppliers to eradicate this thing?
Thank you so much, Tsepo. That's a man that's looking out for the community there. And I think it's something that we've touched on last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Maybe let's just touch on it again for the benefit of those who missed out on last week's show.
Okay. Tsepo, the reason why, one of the reasons we're doing this campaign is to help suppliers understand how we do business. In order for you, when you see a scam, you can quickly identify that this cannot be the right thing. However, even on the procurement plan, if you get an RFQ from health, you can call the health department based on the number that is on the procurement plan just to verify. Most suppliers will call the number on the fake RFQ to verify. And next week we're going to touch more on how we buy, because if they understand how we buy certain commodities and services, they'll be able to differentiate between a fake and what is real from government. And also on the CSD, the reason why we're saying to them they should identify their commodities.
Right.
It's to protect them, so that when they register for say, for instance, for catering, and somebody calls and say, come and deliver tires, they should be able to say, but I don't deliver tires. Why is somebody saying I should deliver tires?
Yeah.
Also, when we talk about transversal contracts and all other modes of buying, then they will understand that there are certain commodities we don't buy through an RFQ as government.
0800 142 446. I'm looking at the time now, ladies, and I feel there's so many things that we said we're going to touch on.
Okay.
Maybe let's move forward to those. I don't want the show to end. I was very interested to find out some of those things. So maybe let's go for should we start with government's planning and related documents, maybe?
Okay.
Let's go there.
February is a very eventful kind of month.
Tell me about it.
It's where we start planning. Actually, it's where we say to the public, this is what we're going to do in this current financial year that starts on the 1st of April and over the 3 years. So it starts with the State of the Nation's address on the 9th of February, where the President will outline the priorities for government. That would mean it's policy issues that we need to work on, or it's issues that talk to service delivery. After that, in the process, parallel, behind the scenes, you have the priorities that are being negotiated. You have the finance ministry that says, in the revenue, this is how much we have, this is how much we can afford. Based on that, once the president says we are delivering on 1, 2, 3, 4, then on the 22nd of February, the Minister of Finance would say, based on those priorities, this is how we're going to fund them. There's a very important document called the Division of Revenue Act. Previously, some of the callers, they were saying, we don't know how money moves in government. If they get hold of that document and go to the last pages at the back, they will see the allocations for all the spheres of government, from national, provincial and municipalities. What are they meant for? There's a grants there that for this nutrition, school nutrition, this is how much the provinces are going to get. So that information is very, very important for them.
So this is called the Division of Revenue Act.
Yep.
So it's a book that one can acquire.
Yep. It's on the website.
Oh, it's on the website
it's
even.
Part of the budget documents.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So you can go there and go see how funds are being allocated.
Yep.
Information is there. Meros, you want to add something?
No.
0800 142 446 0800 142 446. Linda, relax. No, you know what I'm saying. Move on with those callers. Come on, let's go. All right. We're still talking about the government planning and related documents. And by the way, when you're saying related documents, you've just mentioned this one, the Division of Revenue Act. Is there another one or other ones that we can find out about or know about?
See, once the president says these are the let's take for instance last year in the 2016 SONA, he said that government procurement 30% of what government procures need to be procured from cooperatives, youth businesses, female businesses, people with disabilities in the locations in the rural area. That is a policy kind of priority. That is one thing that we worked on for the past 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
It was promulgated on the 20th of January. It will come into effect on the 1st of April. There are certain things that are more service delivery. You have infrastructure, you have water and sanitations. Those things, they need to filter down to be seen in the strategic document of any organ of state that is supposed to deliver on those.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, with infrastructure, it will roll over the 3 years, right? But in the first year, what they are going to do needs to be reflected in the annual performance plan.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterly, they need to say, in this quarter, it's either we are doing a feasibility study, then they need to issue a tender for the experts to help them do that. In the second quarter, this is what we are going to do. Those activities, they need to filter down to the procurement plan. Because if they're saying they're doing a feasibility study in the second quarter on the annual performance plan, in the first quarter, they need now to start advertising so that they can implement what is in the annual performance plan.
Right. 0800 142 446 Musibudi from Cosmo City in GP. Musibudi. Let's patch in Musibudi there. Musibudi. Good evening to you, Musibudi. Kitele ka mega. Puso hawere. If may I ask you, ho you can ask it in English. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to ask in any language of your choice.
Okay, that's fine. My question is, let us say I'm interested in doing business with government, but I haven't studied yet. I will be a beginner. So I heard Rahadi talking about the points because of the capabilities and the skills. So my question is, it will now take us back to, let's say I go to university, I graduate to have a degree, but as soon as I finish, I don't have work because I have to follow the procedure or the process of learnership or internship, something like that, which will take long. So my question is, isn't that also gonna disadvantage the beginners?
All right.
How can they help them?
All right. Thank you so much, Musibudi, for that. We'll definitely tackle that question. Still in GP, we're chatting to Stembi. So, also way to Stembi, so?
Sure.
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good, thank you. Your question, please.
Okay, hello?
Yeah, you can ask your question.
Okay, my question is, I just wanted to ask if ever the tender is restricted to the number of operating years that the company has.
All right, I'm going to ask you to repeat that question for me there, Stembiso.
Okay, I just wanted to ask if the tender awards, are they restricted to the company's number of operating years, like the company's experience? Does it offer any, is it favorable to startup companies?
All right, so basically, Stembiso, your question ties in with Musibudi there. But thank you so much. We'll definitely answer it. Thank you for calling in.
Okay,
0800 142 446 0800 142 446. But you know what's going on in the studio is Karabo now strangling somebody. No, it's live radio. That's what happens. We're allowed to cough. People might panic when these type of things happen. You need not panic. That's how live radio works. You know, I might just sneeze now. Who knows now? Maybe let me not go that far. Let's talk about beginners. And Musibudi feels beginners are disadvantaged because they're just starting up. And Stembiso came in immediately after that. And Stembiso saying, listen, are we restricted as beginners, or are there any restriction as far as experience of service or supply or whatever is concerned?
No, that is why I made reference to the revised preferential procurement regulations. They take into account the emerging businesses, the SMMEs, the businesses that are owned by youth, businesses that are owned by women. So we're catering for them now in the revised regulations because we know most of them are startup. So there is that category where they will have what we call pre-qualification. So for instance, if you issue a tender in Everton, it has to do with the cleaning of the streets and whatever. That tender needs to say we are going to give maybe 30% or 40% to these groups. However, it needs to be registered companies owned by those groups. It should show that there's a 51% ownership by the youth, by the women, by the SMEs, black people, people with disabilities, and they will get more points for those. That's a pre-qualification. However, they still need to compete. It doesn't mean if it's not going to be one company that's owned by amongst themselves. They need to compete, which we see as a fair kind of thing. So they get a little bit of a leap into the points that we're talking about the criteria.
So those groups are being catered.
Yes, they need to just download the revised regulations and just go through them. At some point, we're going to be talking about them. We'll have sessions with suppliers just to explain to them how do they access this type of things.
All right. 0800 142 446 0800 142 446. Thank you so much. His name is Mosoto Stone, taking care of our guests. I wish you could see this. In fact, you can see this, by the way. This is available on YouTube. We are filming this as it happens. So all those coughing, so I see the sound effects, by the way. The water being poured and the water being drunk. All right, let's go to Victor. Victor is in Jabavu. Okay, Victor is not there. Let's try to get Victor back. I'd really appreciate that. And by the way, Crystal, I've been told that the guys have lost your numbers. Please, can you call in again so they can get your numbers? They would like to give you a call back tomorrow just to follow up on that question that you have. So, Crystal, if you can give us a call back, I'd really, really appreciate that. Oh, by the way, that number is 0800 142 446. It's a toll-free number if you're going to be calling from a landline. We're talking about tenders, tender processes, and so forth. 0800 142 446. Victor from Jabavu. Go Soweto. Ra. Khosiaka hanke go na le se sengwe nke be se lutlwile.
A tsere ga toga.
Yeah.
Wa itse nna ke na le mathata a mantsi hela.
Nkera utlwe.
Wa itse botata ba ka ga ntse go rena ke motho wa tabantsho.
Right.
Ke botsa gore why dilo tsa rona di santse di bue ka puo ya seeng.
Okay. Ya no ga o bua yana o bua ka the specific program e re le mo go yona gone yanong. Ka go bolelle That Victor, we have actually repikile up that problem. So, re divide the show. Re etsa ka Sesotho languages which takes place ka Mantaha, guys, ne? Okay. Ga ile gore o batla go buisana le rona ka Sesotho like you are right now. You are more than welcome go etsa yalo, but now it's going to be on Mondays. Right?
Okay,
no, look. Yeah, no, that Victor ready to go phone now. Kadi mantaga between 6 and 7, ne? How phone o tlebosa buipuo ya baeng. O tla bua le lebala hao and that Victor, right? No, ba di bua ya no a kere le bona ba tle ba le teng ka Mantaga. Kana ba tle ba bua le wena. No, ba tle ba bua puo e o buang gone ya no.
Ntate Victor ke rakgadi ke Motswana.
A utlwege. Nka o
a ke re program ya ka tsatsile ke ya English. Monday re na le ya Setswana le all African languages. That's Setswana bo Sesotho bo Sepedi. Ka la bobedi re bua Nguni languages. So o kana wa mamela ka Monday. Re bua ka the same, re bua ka dilo tse tshwanang.
Rona re kwa bo tipo rural area kwa go Bothabantsho.
Ba teng bo Setsoto a kere.
Ma?
A kere ba teng bo Setsoto.
Fighting.
ke re Setsoto radio station e teng a kere.
my should be dintsi hela di radio a se tsona
ya no
Hey.
ke ntwe ma le kang gore wa e bua gona ya no go gore mamela Setsoto radio on Monday, then you'll be able gore o bue ka le rona ka puo ya gago.
no we see am guys.
Thank you, Dr. Victor.
Thank you guys.
Phela
Okay,
masifunda singa-change lento sakhuluma ngesizulu. Ngiyadlala. 0800 142 446 0800 142 446. We've got 5 minutes to go, ladies. Are we comfortable with the time? Is there anything that we need to cover very quickly? We can talk about the RFPs. For those who don't know, we can talk about the RFQs. But if there's something that you would like to highlight, maybe let's do that first.
Some of those are the things, those are the modes of buying that we're going to talk about next week.
Right.
However, for this week, they need to watch out for the SONA. They need to understand what the president is saying. After that, they need to listen to the budget speech. It's not about the increase in liquor, the increase in cigarettes, the increase in taxes.
What is it about? Let's start there. What is it? Because I get on comments earlier on. Yeah, you said to me, Karab, the song is not about dressing up. And I know negi pay the budget on the side to get a good look at Kenyana, Sutunyana, Do Shina Yan, or Kakatimulauzi type of thing. But nonetheless, what is the song all about?
And the SONA, it's about the president saying to the people of South Africa, for this year, this is what government is committing to deliver to the people of the country.
Right.
Right. Some of them will be policy changes that we'll be working on as government. Some will be service delivery. Like we go to Limpopo, we go in to make sure there's water and sanitation. So they need to look out for those things, because if the president says we're going to provide schools, those who are builders, those who can provide bricks, cement, they need to know where the schools are going to be built.
So they could be part of...
Yes,
okay.
And they can follow that process to say, but why is it that school is not coming up?
Oh, they can ask questions
Yes,
like that?
they can.
Yeah.
They can. But what they need to understand is that when you build a school, there's a process. In the first year, there needs to be an indication what is that department doing to start up the process of building. In the maybe the second year, then they will issue a tender to say, we are building the school now. It is in this local municipality. This is where it's going to be. These are the services that we're looking for. So they need to follow those things down to the point where they are reflected on the procurement plan until it becomes a bid where they can compete for it.
All right.
Right. And the other thing that they miss is that the priorities of government do change. That is why sometimes you'll find that the tenders are cancelled. There's a change in the scope. Because, for instance, we'll say we'll build 5 schools. Then there's floods, there's drought. Money needs to come from somewhere to attend to the people and give them housing that they've lost through the rains and everything. So those priority changes might affect how we deliver, what we're going to deliver in that current financial year.
All right, we've got about 2 minutes to go. Maybe if you want to squeeze in a question, you're more than welcome to do that. 0800 142 446. Whoever's going to be calling in, that'll be our last caller. 0800 142 446. That's the number to dial. Is there anything that you would like to highlight, Miros?
I just want to indicate to our suppliers that when the tender is advertised, it should be advertised for 21 days. They should check that. If the tender is not advertised for 21 days, then they should question that. But sometimes the accounting officer can approve for the tender to be advertised for a shorter period with valid reasons. But the minimum advertisement is for 21 days in national and provincial department. Municipalities need to advertise for 30 days. They should check that as well, because it gives them time to prepare.
Okay, you mentioned in 21 days.
Minimum. Yes.
Why 21? Why not 22? Why not 23? Why not 19, for that matter? Is there any significance to the 21 days? Or is it just a full-on 3 week? I don't know. I'm just trying to...
Law.
It's the law.
Yes.
Tell me briefly about it if you can, Merokadi, or Meros for that matter. I gotta put these things. We need to understand, because somebody can say, no, but you're saying 21. What's the significance of why are you not going for a calendar month? Somebody could say that.
We thought that, okay, 3 weeks, 21 days is 3 weeks. It's enough for service providers to prepare the documents and whatever they need to submit when they submit their tender, and to attend the briefing session, because in between the 21 days, there will be a briefing session that need to be attended. And then we indicated that sometimes the briefing sessions are compulsory. If it's compulsory, it's a must that you attend. Otherwise, if you don't attend, then you will be disqualified.
So it's one criteria also,
Yes.
the attendance of a briefing session. Attending the briefing session. In fact, I heard one company, I'm not going to mention on name, I heard them advertising, and they mentioned, for you to be able to take part in this, you have to come and attend a briefing session at such and such a place. And at the time, I did not know, it's very, very important, because what one man can say, I'm not going to go there. But if you're not going to go there, it means you're going to lose out.
Not always. Not all the briefing session. If it's indicated that it's compulsory, it is. But sometimes the briefing sessions are not compulsory. It should be indicated in the tender.
All right. And then finally, you just mentioned, I just had something in my mind right now that you've just mentioned that sometimes a tender needs to be advertised for 21 days, but it could be less with valid reasons.
Yes.
Now, are those reasons projected on the tender portal, or how does it work? I mean, actually, somebody can say, no, but that tender was not there for 21 days. So, Horbaska panic and Horbaito, no, we're doing the right things. Will it be communicated to say, okay, we all know tenders needs to be there for 21 days, but this one is not going to be for 21 days because of this and this and this and that?
No, the reasons are not there in the e-tender portal. But if they want to know why the tender was advertised for 14 days, then they can be
told.
Yeah, they can be told.
Right, okay. Merakari, last thoughts?
My last thoughts, 9th of February, you can dress up and watch on TV.
Aye.
22nd.
Yeah, Karan. I've just said I want to buy a suit and then one come on, and now she says you can dress up. Yeah, no.
And watch on TV, it's fine.
And watch,
yes, 22nd February, we now allocating the budget to the priorities, yes.
So those are the two big dates, the 9th of February as well as the 22nd of February. Oh, by the way, the 9th of February, those who are going to be watching on TV, all the best. We're part of them. We walk with the people, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a plane ticket already allocated. TV. We don't work like that. We're part of these things, you know. The 22nd of February, okay, maybe that one night we'll give it a bit of a break. All right, Crystal, we're still waiting for you to call in 0800 142 446. Crystal, it's very, very important that you call in. We don't have your details. Abu Merakadi would like to have your details so they can call you back to help you on that issue that you called in with. We answered it partly, but we'd like to really attend to it.
The one thing that we promised the listeners last week, I think, was the contact numbers for SARS regarding the tax issues. The number for SARS to just check what's wrong with your compliance status is 0800 007277. It's 0800 007277.
So there we go. That's the, if I may call it, the helpline, the SARS helpline. If you're battling with issues that's got to do with tax and tax compliance and all of that. Last week we had quite a lot of people complaining about that and quite a lot of people calling in for that. So 0800 007277. That's the number to dial, 0800 007277. And that's how we wrap it up for this evening. Thank you so much to all the radio stations who've taken part for this broadcast. Thank you to the technical team, Mosoto Stone on sound and signal distribution, as well as Linda Mazibugo on telephones and connectivity there. We really appreciate it. But our Faith from the video department is making sure that if you go on YouTube, you can get this. There's a gentleman on the other side.
Oscar.
Somebody type that name for me. Linda, stop staring in my eyes and do something. Oh, good number Oskido. Eh? Sorry, Oskido. Hopefully they're not holding leaks. But nonetheless, thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you so much, ladies. My two guests are coming from the OCPO, the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer at the National Treasury. Kimera Khadi Mutsetom, Chief Director, Stakeholders and Client Support, as well as Rose Matlaule, Director, Supply Chain Management, Governance, Monitoring and Compliance. Thank you for coming through. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Karabo, and thanks to the listeners.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
All right, from me, Karabolans, Stolana, Sabapidil Matebele. Let's meet again next week, same place, same time. Ciao for now.
The Lord is my shepherd.
I won't charge you for signing this.
You know this call.